All right. Welcome back, everyone, to week number 5 of the Quitting course, how to overcome your self-sabotage, find your purposeful, passion-filled life. As a little recap, so far in the slump methodology, we've spoken about the S, which are the shoulds and the supposed tos. Last week, we talked about L, which is lacking clarity. And today we're going to be talking about U, which is uncertainty, and how having uncertainty and our relationship with uncertainty leads to us self-sabotaging on our goals and quitting on the things that we say that we want the most. So everything comes back to the one thing we're always talking about, which is human nature. And as I said all the way back in week 1, this is not a thing about you versus anyone else, this, that, the other thing. It is simply you versus human nature. Everything that we're talking about, everything that I'm teaching about, everything that we're doing, and everything that holds us back comes down to a simple thing that we have inside of us, a biological need to do certain things, to be certain ways, that has been bred into us over tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands, millions of years of evolution. And we live in a society now with technology and with things that are not evolutionarily matched to what we have been evolved to do. So we are at direct odds with what our brain craves, which is safety. All the time, everything comes back to one thing: can we feel safe? And to your brain, safety is certainty. Certainty meaning, do I know with 100% certainty that a result will come from an input that I'm doing? If I do X, will I guaranteed get Y? Right? And this goes all the way back to caveman days of inside the cave is safe. It's certain. I know what is here. I know my surroundings. Outside of the cave, where things aren't certain, that is where danger exists. Right? The tiger is outside, the poisonous snakes, the poisonous berries. People leave the cave and they never come back. They die. So to our brain, what I know to be certain represents safety. And therefore, anything that represents uncertainty is inherently the opposite. It's danger. And our brain, our evolutionary brain, avoids danger at all costs, all the time. It will always choose stay safe, stay where it's certain, over go out to where it is dangerous, go out to where anything else is happening, right? So our brain is always seeking certainty because certainty represents safety. And I'm not the first person to talk about this. These are known things, right? Tony Robbins speaks about what he calls the 6 human needs, and one of them is certainty. He calls the need for safety, stability, comfort. Maslow's hierarchy of needs, which we've spoken about in previous talks. The very bottom layer is the need for safety, which is, security. It is the knowledge that you're going to have food on the table, that you have a safe place to sleep at night, that you're literally going to survive the day. And that's always what your brain is searching for. But you can see certainty and safety, they match up together. They're different words for the same thing to our brain. But the thing is, now we see that our brain is always seeking certainty. It craves it. It wants to be certain at all times. And yet, nothing in life is certain. We live in a world where there can be no certainty. There is never anything that is certain. So this brings us to a direct paradox. And this is where self-sabotage comes from. Because we want something that doesn't exist. And because we cannot get it, we talk ourselves out of the things that we are trying to achieve. Right? So an easy example is wanting to lose weight, right? Again, I use these examples a lot about fitness because they're just so simple. Everyone understands them. When we talk about diets and things like that, people who will do a diet and they'll go, oh, well, I tried to do the diet for X amount of time, but then I stopped because it wasn't working. But what that really means is they were not certain that the diet that they were doing was going to get them the result eventually. And that their brain eventually said, this isn't worth it because we're not getting the result. If they had a guarantee, if you had a contract that was signed that said, if you do this exact diet for the next 6 months, you will 100% guaranteed get the result, your brain, having that certainty, would be willing to put in the effort to get it, right? We always talk about, what have you done for me lately? Where are we going with this? What's the point of this? Is it worth putting in the effort? Is it worth me jeopardizing my safety? Safety being using energy that is a finite resource. So is it worth me using my energy and my time for this result? So, but that doesn't work like that, right? Whether it's business, whether it's relationships, whether it's diet, we don't have that certainty. There is no guarantee that a result will ever come. So we have to start right at the beginning of that change loop, right? Because it all starts with acceptance. We have to realize that no matter how much we want things to be certain, they're not. The universe is uncertain. The world is uncertain. Life is uncertain. Every single thing we ever do is uncertain. There is no guarantee for anything. There's no guarantee that whatever you do will achieve a result that you wanted to get, right? And this goes back to the previous 2 weeks, right? So we think like, well, it should be like this. It should be. It's not fair that if I do all of this work that I don't get this result. If I follow a clear path, right? We talked about clarity, right? I follow all the steps. I did everything that Paul said, step 1, step 2, step 3, step 4. I should be able to expect that I get there, right? That makes sense. I want to be certain. You're telling me to do this. How do I know for sure that I'm going to get the result? But we have to understand that shoulds are simply uncertainty. It should be like this. It's supposed to be this way. All I'm saying is that it's not certain that I'm going to get the result, right? Clarity, all of this stuff, expectations, it's all just uncertainty. Because I expect it to be one way, but expectations are not guaranteed. It should be this way, but should is not guaranteed. So all of this stuff is just telling our brain, this is a possible outcome, but it's not a guaranteed outcome. And your brain, because it only wants to do what's guaranteed, is going to start to talk you out of things. Right? This is when, again, we talk about those thought gremlins that say, this is dumb, this isn't worth it, this isn't working, we tried hard enough already. Well, it was supposed to be like this already. Oh, well, I don't even know if I'm actually going to get the result. So what's the point in trying? And all of these little things will start chipping away at our resolve that will keep us going. So the problem with all of this is that, again, right, it says there, seek and you shall not find. No amount of seeking certainty can ever get it because there is no certainty. So inherently, by being addicted to certainty, you are guaranteeing that you will not get the result. It is a hard fact that this holds people back more than anything else, because you're asking for something that is literally outside of the realm of possibilities, right? We talked about before about sphere of influence and sphere of control. And we said that you want to focus on what you can control, because things that outside of your sphere of control are in your sphere of influence, but you don't have direct control over them. This is even worse, because you can't even influence. There is no uncertainty. It is legitimately impossible. So by seeking to only do things that you know that you are going to get a guaranteed result from, it is inherently going to guarantee that you don't get a result, because it's going to hold you back, right? It says right there, if it were certain, everyone would do it. There's a reason we know these things: no risk, no reward. You got, change exists outside of your comfort zone. All of these cliches, yada, yada, whatever's, they exist for a reason. And because we know that nothing happens with certainty. Like I said, with the weight loss example, right? If you were guaranteed to get a result, everyone would do it. If you were 100% going to become a successful entrepreneur by doing the work that you have to do, then everyone would be a successful entrepreneur. If you were definitely going to become rich by working hard, everyone would do it. The point is that, yes, those things happen much of the time, maybe most of the time for many people, but there's also people that doesn't happen for. And that is part of the risk of doing whatever it is that you're going to do, is you have to understand that even though we talked about creating clarity last time and creating the exact vision of what we want, there is still a possibility that with the perfect, clear, crystal clear, step-by-step guide of how to do it, that you do all the right things and that you still don't get the result, right? And that has to be, we have to come into it with that understanding that that's okay, because your brain doesn't like that deal. Your subconscious brain, your conscious brain can say, it's okay, I'm willing to take that risk because the reward that I could possibly get is worth it to me. So you can see this stuff happening all around us. I call this the Harvard effect, right? And this is simply name brands, right? We know that brands and logos and images and things like that are huge, and they sway so much of what we do. And that's because people believe in names and they believe in status. And this can be helpful, but a lot of the times it can actually backfire, because what this is, what a brand like a McDonald's or an Apple is simply you passing off your certainty to a brand, to a name, to a person sometimes, right? So for an easy example, I was just in France. And when I was in France, a lot of the little restaurants and the little cafes and stuff, they didn't have any English menus or anything like that. They didn't have, I had no clue. I don't speak any French. I was by myself. And then as I'm walking around Paris, I see those golden McDonald's arches. And even though I'm in a foreign country, my brain goes, oh, I know what that is. I know that if I walk inside those doors and I order the chicken nuggets and the French fries, I know exactly what I'm going to get. That's certainty. So I'm borrowing that certainty from this brand. And my brain then doesn't have to do the actual work of like, what am I looking at? Figuring out these things. And this can be helpful, again, but it can also be detrimental, because brands, people, businesses can take advantage. This is why you see so many famous stars and actors and singers and Instagram influencers doing brand deals and brand ambassadors and things like that, because we know that human nature is to trust people and to trust brands and to trust things that we are more familiar with, because we're basically borrowing their certainties, right? It's like, well, I don't know about this new brand of teeth whitener. I've never heard of it. I don't know anything about teeth whiteners. Oh, but Michael B. Jordan says that it's great and it's the teeth whitener that he uses. And I love Michael B. Jordan. Therefore, my brain can now skip over the part where it would normally search for that certainty, search for evidence, search for reasons to actually believe that this thing works, and say, I believe Michael B. Jordan. I'm certain because I believe him. It has nothing to do with the actual product or the actual brand or anything like that. So this can be a negative way that our brains need for certainty can affect us, because again, it can be fine. Sometimes I needed food. I knew what McDonald's was and I went for it, but it can also backfire when it tends to lead us towards relying on brands or believing things that we actually shouldn't. But the reason that that happens is because our brain would rather rely on trusting a logo, a brand, a person, a thing, and feel certain about it than to take a guess on something and not know. Meaning my brain would rather say, yeah, I know that McDonald's kind of sucks and I know that the food is going to be crap, but at least it's the crap that I know. At least it's the crappy food that I know and trust in America, rather than me going to a random cafe in Paris that I don't know what I'm going to get. I can't even read the menu and I have no clue what's going on. My brain would rather bet on the thing that I actually know, where there's certainty there. So it can force us to sway our decision making because we're always seeking that certainty. Now, again, the thing about this is we're always seeking that certainty, and that certainty isn't real. Uncertainty is always going to be a part of the equation. There is no time where we can guarantee with 1000% certainty that something is going to work out in the right way. So a few of the tools that I use personally and that I want to leave you with to help deal with this uncertainty that is always going to be there. First is what I call the tattoo rule. And this is a picture of me. This is a while ago. I had a few tattoos, but much less than I do have now. I mean, you guys who have maybe known me or see me in person or see me on Instagram know I have a lot of tattoos. And being a person with a lot of tattoos who's been getting tattooed for like 10 years, tattoos are a common topic that people like to talk to me about. People always have questions about my tattoos. And, I talk about them a lot, and that's great. I love my tattoos. And it's funny, one question that comes up the most out of almost any question, the question that comes up the most is, do they hurt? Which I'll tell you right now, the answer is yes, they hurt a lot. The question that comes up almost as much as that, and it comes from people who don't have tattoos. People who don't have any tattoos always ask, they're like, well, how do you know that you want a tattoo? They're like, oh, they'll always say like, well, I kind of want tattoos, but I just don't know. I just don't like, I don't know that I would love it on me like for the rest of my life or something like that. Like, how do you know that you love something so much that you want it on you for the rest of your life? And that's where I understood the tattoo rule. And I would tell these people, you never know. There's no way that me as a 22, I think I was 22 or 23 in this picture, me as a 32-year-old now, 35-year-old, 40-year-old, whatever, that I could ever know with 100% certainty that I'm going to want this on my body for the rest of my life. It's impossible. How can I know at 32 what my 40-year-old self will be thinking, what my 50-year-old self, 60-year-old self, 70-year-old self? It's nonsensical to think that I would know without a shadow of a doubt that this thing I want to be on me for the rest of my life. So how do I know to get a tattoo? Well, it's because you have to get 95% of the way there and then just pull the trigger. If you were waiting for 100% certainty before you do it, if you're waiting for some signal, for some sign from God or the universe, or you're just waiting to know, you will never get there, because there's always going to be something in the back of your mind of like, well, what if it was different? What if I changed my mind? What if I changed the placement just a little bit? And again, this doesn't just have to do with tattoos. This is life, right? This is everything. So to deal with uncertainty, we have to stop searching for it. And we have to know that you need to get most of the way there, and then accept that there is going to still be a small percentage worth of uncertainty in any decision that you make, whether it's a financial one, a relationship one. Again, if you're choosing a diet and exercise program, right? This was a big thing when I was a personal trainer at the gym. People would say, how do I know which is the best workout plan to choose? Because there are so many workout plans out there. So you can keep looking and keep looking and keep looking, and you can look forever. Or you can say, I don't know for sure that this is the best one, but this one seems good enough and I'm going to try it right now. So you get 95% of the way there and you pull the trigger. But the caveat there is, again, it is 95% of the way there. I'm not just saying you just guess, right? The tattoo thing. I'm not saying you just drunkenly stumble home from a bar one night and go, I'm going to get a tattoo, because you still need to do your due diligence. You still need to try to, understand what you're doing and learn and get there most of the way. But we just have to come at it with the understanding that no matter what, no matter how educated I am, no matter how much I understand a topic, no matter how sure I am about something, there will always be a tiny little bit of uncertainty in the back of my head. And that's okay. That's the point of this rule, that it's okay to have a little bit of uncertainty, and having that is just the trigger for me to understand. It's like, okay, like I know I'm like 99% sold. There's a little bit there that I don't know, but that's okay. I'm going to go with it. I'm going to do it anyway. And then the next thing that you can always do is just borrowing certainty. So I talked about the Harvard effect just a few slides ago, and how brands and famous people can kind of co-opt your certainty and uncertainty matrix and use that for their own benefit. But there's a positive side of borrowing certainty as well. And there's things like experts, there's mentors, there's books, there's courses like this one, there's coaches like I am, there's podcasts. You guys, many of you listen to my podcast. There's seminars in person and online. There's so much information out there. There's so much good information out there. And when you find the right person, the right mentor, the right coach, the right seminar, the right podcast, what you're doing is you're borrowing certainty, right? When I was a personal trainer, what people are doing when they hire a personal trainer is they're paying me for my certainty. Okay. So again, I just said, if you Google best chest workout, you'll literally get 100 million results, probably, maybe more, but maybe a billion best chest workout. And they all say contradictory things. So how is someone to know how to parse through that information? They don't have the time nor the inclination to do it. So they're paying me as an expert to borrow my certainty. You're saying, I don't know what the difference is here, but I trust you, Paul. I know that you've studied this stuff and you've done this stuff long enough that I'm going to quiet my brain that is always looking for certainty, because I'm going to say Paul is certain and we're borrowing his. Okay. So you can borrow certainty. And again, it doesn't have to be from a person. It can just be from books. It can just be from podcasts. When I wanted to learn about personal finance, I dove into the podcast space very heavily, and I started to listen to podcasts about personal finance and read books about personal finance and watch YouTubes about personal finance. And I learned. And because of that, I went from knowing nothing and being completely uncertain to being about 95% certain in the route I want to take my financial future. Now, again, not 100% certain because I'll never be there. There will always be something in the back of my mind. Should I do a little bit differently? Should I change this? Is this the right way? But that's the great thing, is that none of this stuff is set in stone, right? So understand, when we talk about uncertainty and certainty, the reason that your brain is so keen on certainty is because it also feels like everything is final, right? We talked about this back in weeks 1 and 2, failure being for feedback and failure not being final. Your brain wants certainty because it always thinks that failure is going to be final. So it needs to be certain that you're going to win because it feels like losing is death, right? We talked about how your brain feels like failure is final and that it's like a death sentence. But in reality, failure is feedback that we can learn from. So your brain seeks certainty because it thinks that the opposite of certainty would be failure, and failure is death. But we know that that's wrong. We actually know that the opposite of winning is not failing, it's just collecting feedback, and we can use that to move forward. So that's why we need to break out of this paradigm of always seeking certainty, and borrowing certainty to quiet that subconscious voice in your head is a great place to do that. And then the last tool that I want to leave you with has to do with living by your values. So there's a reason that I included that worksheet to list out your top 3 to 5 core values. And if you haven't gone through that yet, you can find it in the home base worksheet tab. Find your core values. The thing is that, again, we live in a world where uncertainty is the rule. Certainty is an impossible level that we can never reach, and uncertainty is the rule of the universe. So instead of seeking certainty, what we can seek is to live in accordance with our values. And that kind of takes the place of certainty, because I don't know for a fact, right? To use myself as an example, I don't know for a fact with 100% certainty that if I do my business plan every day, every week, every month for the next 6 months, 6 years even, that I'll reach the level of success that I want to, right? I can't guarantee that. So instead, I have chosen my values and the way that I want to live my life. And now I live my life in accordance with those values, and I make business decisions in accordance with those values. And I have accepted that the outcome that will come from that is going to be the one that I accept, because that is the best option I have available to me, because I can't guarantee with any actual level of certainty that a result will come. So my next best option is to choose to live in a way that I can say, you know what, no matter how it shakes out, I'm happy because I lived in accordance with my values. So a tool that I have created for you all is called my MVP Daily Standards Worksheet. And MVP stands for Mission, Values, and Priorities. And this is a worksheet that I go through every day. I write it out every single day in my journal. I've given you a PDF download version of it, so feel free to print it out or feel free to just do it in your journal. But this is something that I use every single day, and I highly, highly, highly encourage you to do the same. And basically what you'll do is each day you'll write out your mission. This is your personal mission statement. And we use this to remind you, why are you doing what you're doing? What is the reason that you're working on what you're working on? So this can be an overarching, literal, personal mission, life mission statement, or it can be for your current phase of life, for the project that you're working on, for the thing that you're trying to achieve most, right? So if it's, again, whether it's a business goal, a relationship goal, a weight loss goal, a fitness goal, whatever, you can have a mission statement around that. And then you're going to list out your 2 to 3 values in accordance with your core values. Now, these can just be words or they can be sentences. I choose to write my values in the form of sentences, and I'll give you an example. And then the last part is priorities. So just to make this again make a little bit more sense, like I said, you do have a complete full PDF download that will walk you through everything in this that I just listed off. So feel free to not try to memorize this right now, but I just want you to explain it to you so you kind of get where I'm going with this. So my mission statement, I'm not going to read you a whole thing right now because it's like a paragraph long, but I have my mission statement that I write the exact same every day. And then my values, so I have 3 values that I write every single day. My values are, I always do what I say I will do. They are, I try my best and I accept the outcome. And then I give wholeheartedly with no expectation of reciprocation. So I handwrite those 3 sentences every single day after I've written my mission statement. And then my priorities are my top 1 to 3 priorities for the day. So those are 3 action steps that I need to take care of that day in order to move myself forward towards my ultimate goal. Okay. And what this does is this serves as a centering for us, because I cannot guarantee that with certainty, right? I cannot search for certainty. I cannot guarantee that anything that I do will have the result and the outcome that I want it to do. But what I can believe is that if I live my life in accordance with these things, if I live my life in accordance with my mission, if I live according to those values, and every day I work on those 1 to 3 priorities that I've circled as my top priorities for the day, that will have to hopefully move me in the direction that I want to move in. And again, the reason this is so important that I physically write this out is because this is programming your subconscious brain. So now when my brain wants to seek certainty or should on myself, or when I'm lacking clarity, I go back to those values, that mission that I've written every single day, hundreds and hundreds of times so far now, because I've written it every single day. So something like, I said that I was going to be on this call, let's say, or another call, and I really want to cancel because I'm just not feeling it or because whatever. But then that tape plays in my head that says, I always do what I say I will do, right? I try my best and I accept the outcome. This is exactly everything that I've been teaching for these last 5 weeks. This is all I can do. All I can do is try my best. And then I can completely emotionally detach from the outcome because I have no control over the outcome. I can have no certainty in what happens, but I can have certainty in the effort that I put into something, right? And again, these are mine. They don't have to be yours. You can create your own. And that's why I've given you the tools and the worksheets to create your own. And I encourage you to do this, but I literally do this every day. And this is the best way that I can help you to guide yourself away from always seeking certainty towards living in accordance with your values. And then the last piece is the priorities. Priorities, again, I said 1 to 3 priorities because I don't want this to become a huge to-do list. If you have more than, usually I would honestly say 1 priority is how much you should have because it's a priority, but 1 to 3 top priorities for the day, where if I do nothing but those 3 things, I feel complete with my day. I could go to sleep. If I finish my top 3 priorities by 10 a.m., I'm like, cool, I have the whole day to myself. Sometimes it takes more, sometimes it takes less. Sometimes I only have 1 priority. Sometimes my priority on a day like yesterday is to enjoy my day with my nephew. It doesn't have to be always a serious thing, but we want to have something, because what that does when I complete it, that's giving my brain certainty. That's, I said I would do it and I did it, right? I always do what I say I will do. I am training my brain to trust myself. I am giving myself certainty where certainty would not otherwise exist. My brain is always looking for certainty. And now if I, for the last 500 days, have written my top 3 priorities, my 1 priority, my 2 priorities, and I've done it every time, crossed it off the list, checked it off. I've given myself that. When I write it tomorrow, my brain is going to believe with certainty that I'm going to do it because I've programmed it that way. I've taught it that way. I've taught it to believe myself. So it has no reason for me to self-sabotage. There's no reason for my brain to go, oh, I can't do this. Oh, this is too hard. Oh, this isn't going to work out, or whatever other little thought gremlins are always going to creep in, because I've programmed myself through the constant repetition of my MVP daily centering worksheet, right? So it's a huge, huge, huge tool that I really, really want everyone to embrace. It's changed my life and it's changed many of my clients' lives in the past. So the last question is, When is uncertainty going to strike, right? We talked about the shoulds, we talked about clarity. When do these things come up in our goal achievement arc? And the answer to this is all the time, literally all the time. There will never be certainty. Uncertainty from the time you create your goal is you're going to have an uncertainty, right? Is this the right goal? Is this even what I'm supposed to be doing? Should I be trying this while you're doing it? Is this even working? Am I on the right path? Have I tried enough? Is it time to give up now? Is it time to quit? There's never, ever, 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 ever going to be certainty. We have to accept that. And we can use the tools that we've talked about, right? The tattoo rule, you're just getting 95% of the way there. Borrowing certainty from trusted people, right? That's the difference between the Harvard effect, can be manipulative, and actually borrowing certainty is are we borrowing from the right people, right? And then using our core values, our MVP centering worksheet, to create a level of certainty where it otherwise wouldn't exist. And after that, still coming back to the fact, again, the tattoo rule of 95%, there's always going to be that level of uncertainty. There's always going to be that 5% uncertainty. And we just have to accept that, be aware of it, and we can move forward from there. All right. Oh.